Divine strategies, the role of religion in medieval warfare. In the heart of the medieval period, warfare was more than a contest of arms, armor, and tactics. It was a clash of ideologies, values, and most profoundly, beliefs. Religion was not merely an accessory to medieval society, it was the very core of existence, guiding both rulers and warriors in their decisions on and off the battlefield. Let's explore how faith shaped strategies, inspired armies, and justified conflicts during this tumultuous period. Through divine authority, religious rituals, and holy symbols, medieval warfare became as much a spiritual endeavor as a physical one. The divine justification for war, crusades, and the concept of holy war. One of the most striking examples of religion guiding warfare strategies is the Crusades. Launched in the late 11th century, the Crusades were military expeditions sanctioned by the Pope to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. While territorial ambitions and economic incentives played a role, religious fervor was the main rallying cry. Crusaders saw themselves as soldiers of Christ, fighting to defend Christianity and secure the sacred sites of Jerusalem. The notion of a just war, derived from Christian doctrine, offered a moral framework that shaped medieval conflicts. According to St. Augustine's earlier writings on just war, wars could be justified if they were fought in defense of faith, against perceived evil, or to reclaim territories wrongfully taken. In the case of the Crusades, the papal endorsement gave the military campaigns a sense of divine legitimacy. Soldiers marched to battle believing they were absolved of their sins, with eternal salvation promised as their ultimate reward. This powerful fusion of religious belief and military purpose made the Crusades a defining example of how religion could shape the direction, motivation, and strategy of medieval warfare. Papal influence and the moral compass of warfare. The influence of religion on medieval warfare extended beyond specific conflicts like the Crusades. Religious leaders wielded significant power in shaping the moral compass of their societies, often advising kings and commanders on when and how to go to war. The papacy itself became a central authority in determining whether wars were deemed morally acceptable. In many cases, popes issued formal calls to arms, urging monarchs to defend Christendom or intervene in heretical uprisings. One prominent example is Pope Urban II's call to arms at the Council of Clermont in 1095, where he urged Christian warriors to take up the cross and fight the Muslim forces in the Holy Land. His speech not only inspired thousands of nobles, knights, and peasants to join the First Crusade but also marked the beginning of a series of papal-backed military campaigns that would dominate much of medieval European politics for centuries. The papal authority gave rulers and knights a higher moral cause to fight for, one that transcended the earthly ambitions of land, wealth, or political power. In other instances, religious figures served as intermediaries in conflict, negotiating truces or even preventing battles from occurring. The Church's moral authority could also serve to limit the violence during wartime, as seen in the Peace of God and Truce of God movements. These initiatives aimed to restrict fighting to certain times or protect civilians and non-combatants during periods of war. Through these examples, we see how the Church was deeply involved in the ethical framework surrounding warfare, shaping not only who fought but how they fought. Faith as a psychological weapon, religious symbols and warfare. Religion not only provided moral justification for war, but also served as a powerful tool of psychological warfare. Sacred symbols, relics, and emblems became essential elements of medieval military strategy, inspiring troops while intimidating their enemies. In a period where belief in divine intervention was widespread, the sight of a religious symbol could lift the spirits of soldiers or strike fear into the hearts of their foes. The most prominent example of such a symbol was the Christian cross. Crusaders often emblazoned their shields and tunics with the cross, signifying that they were not merely soldiers but instruments of God's will. This visual representation of faith reinforced their belief that they fought with divine backing. The sight of an army advancing under the banner of the cross could demoralize opponents, as it suggested that God was on the side of the Christian warriors. Similarly, Muslim forces in the Crusades rallied under the crescent, a symbol of Islam and a reminder of their own divine support. These symbols were not only used on the battlefield but were central to the rituals before and after combat. Blessings of weapons, prayers for victory, and the veneration of saints and relics were common practices in medieval armies. For example, the French King Charles VII carried the banner of Joan of Arc into battle, believing it had divine protection that would bring victory against the English. Such practices show how religion intertwined with warfare, giving spiritual meaning to the tools and acts of violence. Religious propaganda and the use of relics. Relics played an extraordinary role in both the psychological and strategic aspects of medieval warfare. It was believed that these holy objects carried divine power, offering protection and favor in battles. Kings and commanders would often carry relics of saints into battle as a means of securing divine aid. For example, King Louis IX of France, during the Seventh Crusade, carried relics of the True Cross and other Christian saints as he led his armies into combat. These relics were considered so sacred that their loss could demoralize an entire army, while their presence was believed to ensure victory. In addition to relics, religious figures were often involved in the ceremonies surrounding war. Priests would bless the soldiers, weapons, and flags before battle, and special masses were held to pray for victory. The association of religious rites with warfare offered a spiritual dimension to the battles, convincing soldiers that they fought not only for their earthly lords but for God himself. Religious factions and internal conflict, civil wars and power struggles. While religion often unified medieval warriors against external enemies, it also played a central role in internal conflicts. Civil wars and dynastic struggles frequently took on a religious dimension, with rival factions using faith to justify their causes. The investiture controversy of the 11th and 12th centuries, for instance, was a power struggle between the Holy Roman Emperors and the papacy over the appointment of bishops. This conflict had a profound impact on the political and military landscape of medieval Europe, with armies rallying behind religiously motivated leaders who claimed divine right or authority over the church. Similarly, the wars of religion in the later medieval period, particularly in France, pitted Catholics against Protestants in violent struggles over religious doctrine and control of the state. These internal conflicts demonstrate how religion could both unify and divide, shaping the military strategies and alliances of the time. The legacy of religion in medieval warfare. The role of religion in medieval warfare was pervasive and far-reaching. From the mass mobilization of the Crusades to the civil wars driven by religious factionalism, faith shaped not only the justifications for war but also the strategies and outcomes. Religious leaders influenced the decisions of kings, religious symbols inspired and demoralized armies, and religious conflicts changed the course of history. The legacy of this divine influence on warfare continued into later centuries, with religious wars marking much of early modern European history. The concept of just war and the intertwining of faith with politics and military strategy persisted long after the medieval era, shaping the nature of warfare for centuries to come. In conclusion, medieval warfare was not only about physical conquest and defense, it was a spiritual struggle, fought under the watchful eyes of divine forces. As we reflect on this period, it becomes clear that the strategies of kings and commanders were inseparable from the religious convictions that permeated their world. Religion was the heartbeat of medieval life, and on the battlefield, it was a force as potent as any sword or shield. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the profound role of religion in shaping medieval warfare. Don't forget to subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066 for more captivating insights into history. Until next time, may your curiosity guide you to new discoveries.